The fullness of unresolvable reality is always present. And once you discover that fact, then you get to enjoy that, even in the presence of the personality, the presence of the thoughts, the presence of the mind's analysis and the mind's narrative, because the narrative will continue, but it's known to not be comprehensive. It's known to not be accurate.
Hi there, Nick Heim here. Welcome to the Nonduality podcast. In this episode, Paul Dobson speaks with Peter Brown, whose website is theopendoorway.org.
Second, I think I know what's going on. One way or another, suffering seems to creep in.
You know, our basic situation is that we are this present actuality that is here, the present actuality of our being, of our experience, that's self-evidently actual, self-evidently real. And typically we think we know what it is. The problem is that everything we think about it is inaccurate. Fortunately, though, we have the actuality as our experience. So by investigating our experience closely and sensitively, we can discover the discrepancies and discover that the way in which what experience actually is deviates from what we hold it to be and what we think it is, which of course invalidates our orienting to our conceptual model of ourselves and our lives, which turns out to be what causes all the suffering and all the problems. Reality itself turns out, fortunately, thank God, literally, turns out to be an absolutely magnificent, miraculous perfection of, beauty and eternality and profound meaningfulness and so on. And the only fly in the ointment is our misinterpretation of it as, no, it's not that. It's limited. It's difficult. It has entrapments. It has obligations. It has all of these sorts of orientations that typically weigh on us, as in our normal human orientation to what we think we are. Life sucks and then you die, sort of thing.
It's unbelievable that happens to be the case, that once you drop everything, that reality is actually quite wondrous and this incredible, inconceivable mystery. It's nothing like any of our ideas about it.
Yeah. Experience itself is entirely unresolvable. It cannot be pinned down. It cannot be resolved. It cannot be described. It cannot be conceived of. Fortunately, it doesn't need to be, because we have the real thing, so we don't need to hit a handle on it. We have it. We are it. But the depth to which you can come to see that is the depth to which you can enjoy what it happens to be. It's not a matter of so much necessarily of letting go of these concepts as just seeing their inadequacy, seeing their incompleteness, seeing the fact that they're seeing the way that they heavy-handedly oversimplify what is actually here, and then that enables you to notice the richness that is actually here, even as the mind will continue to churn out concepts, will continue to have its analyses and have its narratives and so on. But all of those exist within the context of this actuality and in no way hinder it or diminish it. Even in the presence of all the normal human thoughts and modes and interpretations, this astounding, freedom is the fundamental condition.
The main thing for me with all of this is just how free it leaves you, watching it all unfold. You're able to be in there and kind of fully with it, but at the same time just unaffected by anything that arises in it.
There's a detachment from the human drama of it, but there's an even more profoundly intimate engagement with the profundity of what it is in real time. So it's not, it leads to a lusciousness and a richness. It's not so much a removal from the human drama as an enhancement of the human drama in the profundity and the richness and the astounding, miraculous nature of the energies that are dancing here that the mind interprets as being there.
To me, I've always been like, from a young age, what the fuck is going on here? And finally, I've kind of found a way to kind of explore that. It's almost come full circle, because you start off as a child and you're like, I have no idea what this is, but you're enjoying it. You're not thinking, oh, I don't know what this is. You're just fully enjoying it. And then at some point you think you know what it is, and I don't know what that is about. At some point you really think you know what all of this is, and you think you've got it absolutely nailed down.
Yeah, that's the fall.
Yeah, what is that about? But maybe that's part of the process, because it's appearing within this. It can't be a mistake of any kind that's happening. And then almost to just enjoy the ecstasy when you realise you've literally got lost in your own map, haven't you? You've just taken the map for the territory, and that you realise that actually what we're in is in a miracle. The fact that anything appears to be happening right now, that you and me are able to have this conversation, when you really look at it, it's like, what?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, even that this is. I mean, what's up? What is being? What is, I mean, obviously we take it for granted. It's a given. It's the given. But you really, really, check it. And rather than taking it for granted, it's like, well, check out, what is this being? What is this presence? What is this life, this liveliness, this dynamism? What is time? What is space? I mean, all of this incredible. I mean, to say it's mind-boggling is trivial. It's, and yet it's all right here, right now, immediately available to enjoy, to trip on, to just, wow. And just to let, just really the bottom line is let yourself notice that, let yourself enjoy that, let yourself see the truth of that. And it's easy to, I think that, approaching this in terms of trying to deconstruct, the normal human mindset and to point out ways to get beyond it can seem dry and analytical, but I think it is essential to really keep your eyes on the prize, so to speak, of actuality, reality is, well, words fail, but it's a profundity, it's a juiciness, it's a liveliness, it's a meaningfulness. It's so inconceivably beyond anything that humans can, say or think or even feel. I mean, it's just, ecstasy beyond ecstasy. And it is this, and this can be known. And in this knowing, it's anything but dry or,
it feels almost embarrassing that I ever found it kind of so dry and boring, and it's like, how did that happen?
I think it's it makes sense, because a large part of the process of sort of deconstructing one's situation can look like duking it out with concepts and trying to conceptualize your way to out of the concepts, invalidate them through argument and this sort of thing, through analysis, But I've found that, and I recommend, when I teach people this, I call it yoga. The simplest and most direct way to approach this is simply to feel the texture of one's experience. So even in the midst, it's not even a matter of suppressing or even getting around thought, but even in the presence of thought and normal analytical mindset and so on, the experience is present, and experience has a texture. Experience, the quality of light, the quality of touch, the quality of sound, the quality of thought. It's this amazing symphony of texture that is present. It's explicit. It's not hidden. And, even as one is thinking, even as one is caught up in things, it's still here. And it reveals, and, immediately and non-conceptually, the inconceivable, the fact that it is so beyond being conceivable or being mundane in any sense.
You say to bring your attention away from all of the chaos if you're struggling with it, and just focus on something outside of it, another part of your experience that's completely neutral.
Well, there's sort of two different sort of principles we're talking about here. One is that whatever the attention happens to be focused on, there's always more than that and always other than that actually present in the experience. So that right away is an opening out of the context of whatever the mind is holding things to be. And then the other is as a technique of exploration, because of the heavy-handedness of our mind. It can be tricky to try to explore experience, because then the mind immediately tries to take control of the exploration, so to speak, and is thinking about it, and ends up tending to draw the attention back into thought about it. One trick that is possible is to go to some portion of your experience that has very little importance to you, or very little meaning to you, very little relevance, like a bit of blank spot on the wall, or an empty sky, or just some, looking at, a bit of the sidewalk or something like this, that has no, the mind would be bored with it. The mind has no agenda with regard to it, or less agenda, let's say. And then by being with that, one can notice more clearly the experience, the fact that it is experience itself, rather than getting caught up so much in the conceptual version of it, because the mind isn't very interested in that area, let's say.
Yeah, so it's lacking emotional charge of any kind,
right.
So it's much easier. And then from there, you can realise that actually that, is also appearing within awareness or experience. And then maybe, this is where it gets tricky, because I'd say fall back into that, but that's not separate from the appearance, obviously.
Yeah. Well, this is the challenge in spirituality, is it's very easy. It's not that hard to see beyond one's normal view of things, but unfortunately it can be, what tends to happen is one sort of upgrades one's view and still ends up with a conceptual version of things that's held to be an improvement, and it can be not noticed that that's actually a conceptual version. It's all consciousness, or it's all awareness, and now I've got it. But then the consciousness and the awareness are just a sort of an upgraded version of an objective world, or my mundane life, or whatever, that still essentially exists conceptually. They exist in the imagination. The actuality itself does not have components. It doesn't have parts and pieces. It doesn't have aspects. It's not something that's made of awareness and made of consciousness and made of apparition and made of energy, as if these things exist as separate conditions that somehow are interacting to produce this. All of anything whatsoever that we can posit as an actual, element of being, like awareness or consciousness or virtually anything, can't be found. If you're looking for consciousness, you can't find consciousness. If you're looking for anything, you can't find it. And yet, this never goes away. This is beyond, it's not made of parts, it's not made of pieces, it's not made of anything whatsoever that can be designated that the mind can get a handle on. So, so making the jump to noticing this actuality, and of course it contains anything that can be designated, but anything that can be designated isn't actually a thing, and isn't actually a separate aspect. There aren't appearances and consciousness. But you can't find appearances. You can't find consciousness. So to say that appearances and consciousness are appearing together even is heavy-handed and imaginary, because there isn't either. All there is this. And it can be said to, well, certainly there seems to be what we can call appearances. Certainly there seems to be what we can think of as consciousness. Certainly, so on and so forth. But even that is a conceptual overlay on something, on this actuality, which is completely manifest, completely explicit, and yet entirely ungraspable.
Yeah. I was like, oh, okay, so I'm awareness. Everything's awareness. I'm in awareness now. I'll just keep falling back out of awareness and I'll be fine. You know, this is coming from someone who got stuck for a long time with different upgraded concepts, really. But the mind hears something enough times and it thinks, that's the thing I want, is this awareness thing. And until I'm fully in awareness, I'm not there yet, even though
try and get out of
nothing
awareness.
but that thing that you're chasing. Enlightenment already is here, isn't it? You can't avoid it. You know, the story I do like going to, again, it's another story, but God's playing hide and seek with itself is quite a nice way of looking at it. It does seem there's a sort of playful aspect to it, I feel. It does feel like reality's playing with itself in some way.
But it never, you know, it's always dancing with itself, because it's always, you know, intensely engaged with itself, intensely curious about itself, intensely moving into itself, whether conceptually or not. And yet, even as it does that, it never finds a final version. It never gets to you know, oh, this is it. This is, you know, now I've got it. You know, in a profound sense, obviously, one always has it, one always is it. But even the being of it is a continual engagement of penetration, of unfoldment, I mean, the experience itself is an exploration, just intrinsically. And aside from the notion of someone looking for something, just the fact of sitting experiencing the moment is like, you know, what is this? What is here? And it's always fully found, but at the same time, in a profound sense, it's never really found, because what is it that I found? What is it that this is? You know, and again, not conceptually, but just even, you know, immediately, you know, one finds mystery, and yeah, what is mystery? Having found mystery, what has been found? You know, and yet it's this ongoing, investigation of mystery and finding of mystery. And since it is mystery, nothing has really been found, and the ongoingness continues forever. So, I mean, intrinsically, it's such a fascinating. It's like, you know, I like the image of sort of free fall, you know, where it's just continually falling into itself. It's never going to hit bottom. There is no bottom, and yet it's not like it's not moving either. It's always opening to itself. It's always exploring itself eternally, and it will never get anywhere.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? I went through a period of taking psychedelics, and every time I took some, I thought that's the thing. And what it was trying to show me in a way was that you can't ever get a handle. Yeah. It's all of it, you know, it's all of it. And also none of your ideas about any of them is correct. That's probably the best thing that can come from psychedelics.
Oh yeah, I had a lot of experience with that when I was a kid. I grew up in the halcyon days of the hippie era, so that was sort of I guess there's a bit of a neo psychedelic era sort of happening these days to some extent. But that was, you know, that was what was going on back then, and I participated wholeheartedly.
It's good to hear. I mean, it is good. It is helpful for getting you out of those, because we are very closed in these concrete frameworks of what we think everything is, and it does kind of burst those open, because then you're like, well, I thought it was this idea I have about life, but then something totally that seemingly impossible happens when you take psychedelics, and that leaves you open to the mystery. Then you can start investigating into this.
It makes it very explicit that there's more going on than one's normal perspective, and then that can open the door to investigating aspects of one's supposedly normal perspective that one hasn't really given much attention to. But, you know, as one develops more sensitivity, it's possible to really appreciate the subtlety of the quality of experience that's happening there. One eventually begins to open to the fact that there is an inherent intelligence. It's the intelligence of experiencing itself. And this inherent intelligence is extremely powerful. It's instantaneous, and it assimilates non-linearly and non-structurally. So as one becomes aware of the inherent intelligence, and that one is in fact the inherent intelligence, that opens the door to a really meaningful and assimilative engagement with all of these very nonlinear inconceivabilities that one discovers experientially. And yet it's not just that, oh wow, that's amazing, that's so, so far out and I can't have anything to do with it other than sort of marvel at it from over here. But the inherent intelligence, no, the inherent intelligence is right here with it. It's right here with all of it and engaging with it all very profoundly and very meaningfully, but not in a way that can be verbalized. And so as one, and psychedelics and meditation, these sorts of things can, open one to becoming aware of this inherent intelligence. And once one sort of the center of gravity of one's identity can begin to shift towards the inherent intelligence as one becomes aware of it, which facilitates, enables really being able to be engaged with non-linearities, engaged with, inconceivabilities very profoundly and directly and meaningfully, and participatorily, which really is moving beyond a strictly human level of functioning, but not actually for stop being human, because one never was really human. One really always has been the inherent intelligence. The human orientation and human consciousness is a small subsystem of the inherent intelligence, not the other way around.
It's incredible. It's always the same perfection. It's just as wearing different clothes, colors and experiences and different shades of all of this, but it's actually never not that perfect, absolutely perfect.
It can appear as anything, but it never departs from itself.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
It never becomes anything other than what it is, this present act, this present divinity, this present miracle. And yet it can look like anything. It can look like the naked intelligence and everything disappearing. It can look like being lost in human persona and suffering and drama. It can look like anything, but it never actually becomes what it seems to be. It's always itself. And its nature is this protean, chameleon-like nature where it can seem to be anything, but it's always exactly what it is. It's always exactly this transcendental divinity that exists concretely. That's what's really here. That's the only thing that's really here. I think a lot of the qualities we experience, the sort of flavors we experience, like bliss or humor or whatever, as we discover these, it's less about the conditions themselves and more about the transitions, It's like when you discover that, oh, I'm not what I thought I was, that feeling of release. There's an enormous blissfulness or humor or whatever. And then the bliss may diminish, but it doesn't mean that you've lost it. It just means that you're not in the transition to realizing that. You're just living it. And in the constancy of living it, there's less of the shock of transition, which is where the oh wow, it's like the punchline of a joke is very funny, and after you've heard the joke, it's still a funny joke, but you're not sitting there laughing for the rest of your life.
There's actually something more, sort of a deeper kind of bliss in that, isn't there? Yeah. Something more to it than just that strong euphoric bliss.
It has a quality to it, and the quality is very beautiful intrinsically. The fullness of unresolvable reality is always present, and once you discover that fact, then you get to enjoy that, even in the presence of the personality, the presence of the thoughts, the presence of the mind's analysis and the mind's narrative, because the narrative will continue, but it's known to not be comprehensive. It's known to not be accurate. The people, the situations, and all of this are utterly beyond being people and even situations. It's just something else that cannot even be said.